So, a mere 10 months into his presidency, and Donald Trump has finally implemented sweeping sanctions against the Russians by blocking Rosneft and Lukoil, two major pillars of Moscow's energy production capability. I guess better late than never. Now, the Office of Foreign Assets Control, or OFAC, sanctioned both firms under Executive Order 14024, placing them on the specially designated nationals list. This freezes U.S. controlled assets and bars U.S. persons from doing business with them. The 50% rule also captures majority owned subsidiaries that weren't named, meaning any subsidiaries of these organizations that have ties to Lukoil or Rosneft are also sanctioned. OFAC said these sanctions include allowances for general licenses that were already in place so that expected incoming shipments aren't affected, only future ones. This will smooth out what could have been a chaotic market if the cutoff had been immediate. Still, bankers, traders, insurers, and shippers now face legal and financial risks if they keep engaging with Russia's Lukoil and Rosneft. Now, that wind down window closes in a month on November 21st, so countries and organizations buying from Russia basically have a month to wind down before facing the wrath of the United States. Now, these two companies account for about 5% of global oil output and represent half of Russia's production. These new sanctions, combined with asset freezes, are really going to sting Russia pretty badly. Chinese state firms and Indian refineries are already pausing purchases as banks and insurers reassess the risks of continuing to receive Russian oil. Now, if China, Russia, India, etc., try to reroute these oil trades through gray zone intermediaries, it's going to get very expensive. Freight insurance and transaction costs all go up, and most ports won't let ships dock without proper insurance. Now, in some cases, the governments of those countries can act as the insurer, but that gets very costly, especially if there's an accident. So more often than not, these countries would just choose to cut off shipments. Now, foreign financial institutions have already been warned. Facilitating material transactions for these blocked entities carries penalties such as loss of access to the dollar, higher financing fees, and potential removal from U.S.-controlled global markets. Now, historically, actions like this almost always push countries to de-risk away from the sanctioned entity rather than risk getting caught. Now, the European Union is also tightening its own restrictions as well, including a phased ban on Russian liquefied natural gas and new actions against Russia's shadow fleet, even impounding ships outright. Russia's running out of safe harbors for financing and shipping because of these new sanctions, and to offset the risk, they are going to have to offer even bigger discounts to buyers, and at some point, it's just going to be cost prohibitive to discount the oil to such a level. Even at deep discounts, these countries likely aren't going to purchase Russian oil because they don't want to face backlash from the European Union or the United States. That being said, this is probably the hardest hitting set of sanctions we've seen in a year at least. It's not going to end the war, but it will strain the ability for Russia to raise money to sustain its high tempo operations. And because of that, they aren't going to be able to fund the war in a way that they would like over the long term.